You know, most folks don't think twice about their water heater. It just sits there in the garage or the basement doing its thing year after year. But here's the truth. That quiet tank could be hiding some seriously dangerous problems right now. After 3 decades of working on water heaters, I've seen things that would keep you up at night. Today I'm walking you through 5 critical water heater mistakes that could cause your tank to fail or even explode. Stick around because number 5 is one that can threaten your family's health without you ever knowing it. Plus, I've got a bonus tip at the end that most homeowners have never heard of. The first mistake we need to talk about is ignoring the temperature and pressure relief valve, and this is hands down the most dangerous one on the entire list. The T and P valve, or T and P valve, is a small brass fitting usually located on the side, or the top of your tank. It has a little lever on it and a discharge pipe running down toward the floor. Its job is simple, but absolutely critical. If the temperature or pressure inside the tank climbs too high, that valve opens and releases water to bring things back to a safe level. Think of it like a pressure cooker with a safety release. Without that release, the pressure just keeps building with nowhere to go. And when a water heater finally gives way under that kind of pressure, it doesn't just spring a little leak. There are documented cases of water heaters launching through ceilings and roofs. The amount of stored energy in an overheated, pressurized tank is enormous. Now here's the real problem. Almost nobody tests this valve. It sits untouched for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. During that time, mineral deposits and corrosion cause it to seize completely shut. When that happens, your one safety net is gone, and you have no idea. Testing it is simple and should be done once a year. Make sure the tank is full and the heater is running normally. Place a bucket under the discharge pipe. Then lift the small metal lever on the valve about halfway and hold it for a few seconds. You should hear water rushing out into the bucket. If nothing comes out, the valve is seized and must be replaced immediately. If it keeps dripping after you release the lever, that's also a sign it needs to come out. A replacement T and P valve costs about $15 to $20 at any hardware store. It's one of the cheapest safety investments you can make on your water heater. And I have to say this because I've seen it too many times. Never cap off or plug that valve. I've walked into homes where someone screwed a cap on it because it was dripping. That is like cutting the brake lines on your car because the brakes were squeaking. If it's dripping, that's the valve telling you something is wrong. Replace it or call a plumber. But never silence it. That valve exists to protect your home and your family, and it cannot do its job if someone has plugged it shut. The second mistake that trips up a lot of homeowners is setting the water heater temperature too high. This one sounds minor compared to exploding tanks, but it sends thousands of people to the emergency room every single year. A lot of water heaters ship from the factory with the thermostat set to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Some folks crank it even higher because they want extra hot showers or feel like the tank isn't keeping up. But most people don't understand how dangerous water at those temperatures really is. Water at 140 degrees can cause a full thickness burn in about 5 seconds of contact. At 150 degrees, that drops to roughly 2 seconds. For young children, elderly adults, or anyone with sensitive skin or limited mobility, those times are even shorter. The recommended setting for most homes is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That gives you plenty of hot water for showers, dishes, and laundry, while significantly lowering the scald risk. It also saves you money. For roughly every 10 degrees you lower the thermostat, you save about 3 to 5% on water heating costs. Over a full year, that adds up to real savings. Finding the thermostat depends on your heater type. On a gas water heater, look for a dial on the gas control valve near the bottom of the unit. You'll usually see markings for hot, warm, and vacation. Simply turn it to the desired setting. On an electric water heater, most units have two thermostats hidden behind metal access panels on the front of the tank. You'll need a flathead screwdriver to remove the panel covers and adjust the dials. Before you open those panels on an electric unit, shut the power off at the breaker first. Behind those panels are live electrical connections carrying 240 volts, and touching them could be fatal. Always verify the power is off with a non-contact voltage tester before putting your hands near those wires. Once you've adjusted, replace the panels and restore power. An easy way to check your actual water temperature is to run the hot side of the nearest faucet for about 2 minutes, then hold a kitchen thermometer under the stream. If it reads above 125 degrees, dial things back. Recheck after a couple hours once the tank has adjusted. This whole fix takes 60 seconds, but could prevent a painful trip to the emergency room. It's one of those things that seems so simple, you wonder why you didn't do it sooner. The third mistake on our list is never flushing the tank. And this is probably the most neglected maintenance task when it comes to water heaters. Here's what's happening inside your tank right now. The water flowing into your home carries dissolved minerals like calcium and magnesium. When that water gets heated, those minerals separate out and settle to the bottom as sediment. Year after year, that layer keeps building. Eventually, it turns into something that looks like packed sand or chalky rock at the bottom of your tank. On a gas water heater, the burner sits directly underneath. That sediment layer acts like insulation between the flame and the water, forcing the burner to work harder and run longer. You'll start hearing popping or rumbling noises from the tank. That sound is steam bubbles forming underneath the sediment and pushing through. A lot of folks hear that and panic thinking the tank is about to blow. Sediment alone won't cause an explosion, but it puts serious stress on the tank. That trapped heat can weaken the bottom over time, causing cracks, leaks, and eventually complete failure. On an electric unit, the lower heating element sits right in that sediment. It can get buried and burn out early, or the upper element has to pick up all the slack, meaning less hot water and higher bills. Flushing once a year prevents most of this. Turn off the gas or electricity. Hook a garden hose to the drain valve at the bottom and run it outside, or to a floor drain. Open the valve and let it flow until the water runs clear. If you see rusty water or particles, that's the sediment leaving. If the flow slows to a trickle or stops, the valve is probably clogged. One trick is to briefly open the cold water supply valve to stir things up and push sediment toward the drain. You may need to repeat this several times. If your tank hasn't been flushed in years, the factory drain valve might not cut it because the opening is too small. You can replace it with a 3/4-inch brass ball valve that has a much larger opening and lets stubborn sediment pass through easily. That upgrade makes every future flush faster and more effective. Think of it this way. Spending 20 minutes once a year flushing the tank could add years to its lifespan and save you the cost of an early replacement. That's a trade most of us would take any day. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more homeowners like yourself who would also find this information helpful. All right, let's continue. The fourth mistake that quietly destroys water heaters from the inside out is neglecting the anode rod. If you've never heard of an anode rod, don't feel bad. Most homeowners have no idea it exists. But from 30 years of experience, I can tell you this single part is one of the biggest factors in how long your water heater lasts. The anode rod is a long metal rod usually made of magnesium or aluminum that hangs down inside the tank from the top. Its entire purpose is to corrode so your tank doesn't have to. That's why plumbers call it the sacrificial rod. Through an electrochemical process, it attracts corrosive elements in the water and absorbs all that damage, protecting the steel lining of your tank. It's clever engineering. But here's the catch. The rod doesn't last forever. Depending on your water quality, it can be completely consumed in 3 to 5 years. Once it's gone, there's nothing protecting the inside of your tank from corrosion. Rust takes over, and once that starts, there's no fixing it. You're looking at a full replacement costing $800 to $1,500 or more, all because of a part that costs about $25 to $30. Checking it is something most homeowners can handle. Turn off the gas or power. The rod threads into a hex head fitting at the top of the tank. Sometimes it's easy to spot, and sometimes it's hidden under a cap or insulation. You'll need a 1 1/16" socket and a breaker bar to loosen it because they're torqued in tight at the factory. Have someone brace the tank so it doesn't shift while you're pulling. Once it's out, take a good look. If it's mostly dissolved or thinner than about 1/2 inch in diameter, it's done and needs replacing. If you have limited clearance above the tank, like in a crawl space or under low ceiling joists, look for a flexible or segmented anode rod that folds so you can maneuver it in and out without needing 4 feet of space overhead. I recommend checking the rod every 2 to 3 years. If you have a water softener, check it more often, because softened water actually speeds up the corrosion of the rod. Here's a way to think about it. Replacing a $30 rod every few years is a whole lot smarter than replacing an entire water heater because you didn't know that rod was in there. This one step alone can add 5 or more years to the life of your tank, saving you potentially thousands of dollars in the long run. The fifth and final mistake on our list is improper venting or combustion air supply, and this one applies specifically to gas water heaters. This is the one I mentioned at the start of the video. The one that can put your family at risk without you ever seeing or smelling anything wrong. When a gas water heater burns fuel, it produces combustion gases, including carbon monoxide. Those gases are designed to travel up through the draft hood on top of the tank, into the flue pipe, and out through the roof. When everything works correctly, those dangerous gases never enter your living space. But when something disrupts that path, the gases spill back into your home. This is called backdrafting. Carbon monoxide has no color and no odor. You cannot detect it with your senses. Early symptoms of exposure include headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Many people mistake it for the flu. Prolonged exposure can cause brain damage or death. Several things cause venting problems. The flue pipe might be disconnected or have gaps at the joints. Sometimes the pipe sags or dips, trapping gases instead of letting them rise. In older homes, the water heater might be in a small closet without adequate ventilation. The burner needs fresh air to operate safely. When the space is too sealed, it starves for oxygen and pulls combustion gases back into the room. Another increasingly common cause is powerful exhaust fans. A large kitchen range hood or bathroom fan can create negative pressure inside the house and literally pull combustion gases backward down the flue. Here's a test you can do right now. With the burner firing, hold a lit match or incense near the draft hood on top of the tank. The smoke should be drawn upward. If it blows sideways or away from the hood, your heater is backdrafting and you need to act immediately. Check that all flue pipe joints are tight with at least 3 screws per connection. Make sure the pipe slopes consistently upward toward the roof with no dips. Verify the room has enough combustion air, generally 50 cubic feet per 1,000 BTU per hour of input. If the unit is in an enclosed space, you may need vents or louvers in the door or walls. And make sure you have a working carbon monoxide detector near the water heater and on every level of your home. Test them regularly and replace batteries at least once a year. If the detector ever goes off, take it seriously. Get everyone outside, get fresh air, and call your gas utility or fire department before going back in. If you're not comfortable checking the venting yourself, call a licensed plumber or HVAC technician. This is one situation where paying a professional is absolutely the right call. And now for the bonus tip that professional plumbers swear by. Grab a permanent marker and write the installation date directly on the side of your water heater tank. Most water heaters last roughly 8 to 12 years. The manufacturing date is coded into the serial number on the data plate, but every brand uses a different format, and it can be a headache to figure out. So whether you just had a new unit installed, or you know when yours went in, write the month and year in big clear letters, where you can see it. Every time you walk past the tank, you've got an instant reminder of how old it is. Once it crosses that 8-year mark, you know it's time to pay closer attention. Flush regularly. Check the anode rod, test the T and P valve, and start setting aside a little money so when replacement day comes, it's a planned upgrade rather than an emergency. Simplest thing in the world, but it keeps you from being blindsided. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more DIY plumbing tips, and check out our other videos.